Across our world we live, in cities and villages, all part of a greater whole, but we're not alone. They come in herds, hives and swarms, packs, prides and pairs, living in nature, members of society.
Deep in the wilderness, from the barren ice of the Arctic to the jungles of South America, carnivores can be found in one form or another, a widespread group of mammals. They evolved over 50 million years ago, divided into 9 families, including all bears, wolves and foxes, though their size and lifestyle may vary considerably. From the massive brown bear, broadly omnivorous and weighing up to 1,500 pounds, to the least weasel at just over an ounce, preying exclusively on smaller rodents. They represent one of the biggest groups of mammalian predators and come in packs and small groups to pairs and loners, though none as distinctive and mythic as the wolf. Though the term may be used for a wide range of dog-like predatory animals, including all forms of jackal and wild dogs, the true wolf is as unmistakable as it is iconic in appearance. A single species divided into 25 living subspecies, ranging from the dingo to the infamous grey wolf, to the domestic dog as it was taken in as a companion by Stone Age humans over 30,000 years ago. They all vary greatly in size, though the many subspecies of grey wolf average 80 to 100 pounds, measuring over 5 feet long, with a variety of appearances, mostly being white, grey, brown or black. All nearly exclusively predatory, preying on a wide range of ungulates or hoofed animals, as well as smaller rodents and birds. They can be found in nearly all types of environments in the northern hemisphere, from forested areas and open plains to barren tundra and polar climates. The dingo are additionally found throughout Australia, while domestic dogs have spread worldwide. The true wolf remains closely related to the American coyote, with which it can often interbreed and form hybrid species of coy wolves. Though this is a rare occurrence, as wolves typically form tight-knit social groups with limited breeding rights and little outside influence. They are pack hunters, collaborating to take down prey much larger than themselves, governed by strict social hierarchies, with each member of the pack filling a particular role, being highly social animals. Most packs, or families, having 5 to 12 individuals, occasionally joining other packs to form larger communities of 2 to 3 families, even up to 40 wolves in all. The pack is centered around a very large home range, which they may aggressively defend from other packs, the wolves patrolling at least 9% of the range every day. The pack itself is governed by a highly complex social structure led by a single male or female, known as the alpha, who is solely in charge of all navigation and decision-making, as well as keeping the peace within the pack itself as part of its role as the head of the family. The alpha is then followed by several subservient betas, varying in rank and social status, mostly being the alpha's direct descendants, all loyal to the point where they may willingly starve by surrendering food to go to the alpha and its pups when food is scarce. Each of the betas filling different roles at different times, with internal rankings being subject to challenges of dominance by other betas. As such, they've developed a wide array of vocalizations and non-vocal communications. The social status of wolves reflected directly in their posture and expressions around other wolves, particularly the height of the head and tail indicating either submission or aggression, showing or covering teeth to show different stages of emotion, anger, and defensiveness. While vocalizations can be divided into 3 main categories: howls, yelps, and growls. howling in particular being distinctive among wolves, able to be heard across an area of up to 50 square miles. It is used to gather or locate the pack as well as to sound an alarm, the length and tone of the howl indicating the difference, while yelps and whining is used either to indicate submission or to express playfulness and care. Growls used only for aggression and defensiveness. Mating season occurs once a year, between January and April depending on the location and the subspecies, for a period of up to 2 weeks. Wolves are generally monogamous, with each pack containing one breeding pair only, the alpha and its mate, the sexuality of the betas being typically suppressed. The first time a mate is to be selected, the males, typically considerably larger, follow the females around, vying for her attention, bringing her food and displaying their strength. After the female has chosen her mate, they remain together as the breeding pair until the death of one or both of them. The mating act itself takes only a few minutes at a time and is frequently repeated for days until conception occurs. After which, the female digs out a den in a cave or at the base of a tree, where she remains for the duration of the pregnancy, lasting 2 months, as well as during the ensuing recovery and nursing period, during which time her mate, with the help of the betas, gather food for her. Typically between 5 to 7 pups are born, though litters of up to 17 pups have been known to happen. Born blind and deaf, weighing around 10 to 15 ounces, they begin to see at 9 to 12 days of age. The pups are raised by the pack as a whole, employing alloparenting strategies to socialize the pups through social grooming and play fighting. At 4 months of age, they will have increased their body weight 30 times over and are soon able to accompany the pack on hunts, staying with their parents in the pack until reaching sexual maturity between 2 to 3 years of age, after which many of the juvenile wolves disperse, particularly the males, to ensure genetic diversity, while some juvenile females may choose to stay in the pack to help raise the next litter. The dispersed wolves, on the other hand, will attempt to seek out a new pack to join, though most wolf packs refuse to accept newcomers and the lone wolves often resort to prolonged isolation, or to joining with another lone wolf of the opposite sex to form an entirely new pack. While in nearly all environments, wolves are the apex predators with few natural enemies, juvenile wolves are significantly vulnerable to isolated incidents and attacks, as well as the threat of starvation or injury from failed hunts. Once in a pack, life expectancy rises dramatically, however, with a maximum lifespan for a social wolf being up to 13 years in the wild, though the average remains around 5 to 6 years due to many wolves dying from injuries received due to disputes with other wolves. A long since iconic image of a cunning hunter of woodlands and forests is that of the fox. A diverse group of canids, or dog-like predatory animals, they are closest in relations to jackals and wolves, divided into 5 main groups: the gray foxes, the South American foxes, the bat-eared foxes, the crab-eating foxes, and the true foxes. The true foxes being the most prolific, with 12 species in all, dominated by the red fox with 47 subspecies, found throughout North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, while foxes at large can be found on every continent except Antarctica. In any environment from mountainous ranges to flat grasslands, woodlands, jungles, and even barren tundra, they are distinct from dogs and other canines by their small size, notable whiskers, and distinctive coloration, either white, brown, gray, or red, depending on both the species, the individual's age, and the season. As many foxes in temperate or colder climates molt seasonally, with a typically thicker and brighter winter coat. They range in size from the largest, the red fox, weighing up to 30 pounds, to the smallest, the fennec fox, at a mere 1.5 pounds, making foxes among the smallest canids in existence. Generally omnivorous, they feed on anything from plants and eggs, insects and snails, to small reptiles and birds, using their keen sense of smell and eyesight to hunt, stalking and pouncing on their prey, storing excess food by burying it under leaves or soil for later consumption. Most being either nocturnal or crepuscular. Unlike most canids, foxes generally do not live in cohesive packs, instead known to live in smaller family groups and pairs, or, as with the Arctic fox, alone. Most groups consisting of 2 to 4 individuals, usually as a monogamous pair with their latest litter, with groupings of up to 8 individuals sometimes found in a single territory when food is abundant, wherein a single individual or pair controls the territory with others being subordinate, usually being former cubs who have yet to disperse. As such, foxes have developed a variety of vocalizations, from whining, used either at birth as a sign of hunger or distress, or by submissive adults in confrontations, yelping as with young pups during play, growls, the adult fox's instructive sounds to its pups, calling for them, contact calls being unique to each individual, used for recognition and greetings, barks calling attention to intruders and threats, explosive calls being a high-pitched howl used to threaten and intimidate other foxes and animals, and accommodative call, the sharp combination of bark and howl used while in direct conflict with another fox, with a few additional being able to howl when separated from their mate. Many foxes have fixed territories, employing territorial markings to keep outsiders at bay, digging out one or multiple hollow dens within, ranging from simple dugout holes and caves to complex underground tunnel systems depending on the species and climate. The fox takes rest during the day inside its den or under the cover of bushes and foliage, emerging in the afternoon to hunt or seek out a mate, alternating dens depending on the nearby abundance of food, seasonal changes, or outbreaks of parasites. Mating season typically occurs once or twice a year, usually in the spring for the northern species, fall for southern species, when the female foxes or vixens are in the oestrus period, lasting between 1 day to 3 weeks. First-time females crying out for mates with a distinct mating call, the male then seeking her out and following her around until she is willing to mate, or until she rejects his advances. Several males occasionally ending up in combat over a single female, growling and biting. Though serious injuries are rare, most rivalries amounting to little more than displays of aggression. The breeding pair then mates repeatedly over several hours, forming a pair bond, most foxes being either permanently or serially monogamous, joining their territories together as one. The gestational period lasts between 5 weeks and 2 months for most foxes, after which a litter of 2 to 6 pups or kits are born, up to 13 for some species, most being born blind and nearly deaf and with a darker coat than their final color with a fluffy brown or black fur. Though both parents take part in rearing the pups, the female is typically the dominant parent, as the pups are predominantly breastfed for the first 2 to 8 weeks, while the male forages for food to bring back to his mate, occasionally employing alloparenting with older pups from previous litters aiding in rearing and nursing the pups. The pups quickly gaining weight, they begin to venture out of the den after a month or 2. Aggressively play fighting and exploring. Though they only begin to hunt alongside their parents at 3 to 4 months of age, becoming increasingly independent over the next few months, growing to nearly adult size, before reaching sexual maturity at around 8 to 12 months of age, after which they usually disperse to find a mate and form a family territory of their own, with most males and some females already breeding within the first year. Though some pups may occasionally choose to stay in their home range with the parents if food is abundant, at the expense of their own reproduction, which is instead delayed. Mortality rates for juvenile foxes is very high due to their size and vulnerability, up to 75% during the first year, with even adult foxes being targets for predation by larger animals such as owls, hawks, and eagles, as well as large felines such as leopards, lions, and tigers, as well as being particularly vulnerable to disease due to rabies and others, with various skin and fur parasites being commonplace. The average lifespan for foxes being typically only 1 to 5 years, though some cases have been reported of foxes living up to 15 years. Of all the caniforms in existence, few are as well known and studied as the mighty bears. They are the giants of the wild, the largest predators on land. The largest polar bear known to have stood over 11 feet tall when upright, while the largest Kodiak bear is known to have weighed over 2,400 pounds, 3 times the size of the largest tiger. The smallest sun bear being 4 feet tall itself, weighing 140 pounds. Divided into 8 species, including the sloth bear, the spectacled bear, the sun bear, the polar bear, the brown bear, the Asian and American black bear, and the giant panda. They are found throughout Europe, Asia, North and South America, and are most common in forests and grasslands. Though they have been known to exist in mountainous regions and the barren tundra, as well as in the Arctic itself. Recognizable by their massive body, powerful muscular shoulders, stocky legs, and lumbering gait. Unlike other caniforms, bears walk on their hands and feet as opposed to their fingers and toes, as well as long canines and powerful claws used for mauling their prey or to dig up roots and fruits. They are either black or brown, with the polar bear and the panda being partially white, most being born with their final year-round coat, which often consists of a dense undercoat keeping the bear warm and dry, even in extreme temperatures such as the bitter cold of the Arctic. Most bears are, despite their reputation, omnivorous and opportunistic, feeding on a greater variety of foods than any other wild animal, from berries, fruit and leaves to insects, fish, deer and livestock, even carrion. Only the polar bear being exclusively predatory, while the panda is almost entirely herbivorous. Bears using their significant sense of smell to locate their prey from distances up to 50 miles downwind, as well as using their eyesight to identify berries and fruit. Bears are generally highly solitary, only rarely found in pairs or smaller groups during mating season, when raising their cubs, or in cases of seasonal abundance of food, as with salmon runs. Though most are highly territorial with fixed home ranges and no tolerance for outsiders, their territory is centered around a single den, either a cave or a deep hollow dug out from loose soil, where bears in temperate or subpolar climates go into hibernation over the winter months. Many bears building up fat reserves during the summer and fall to be able to fast during hibernation. As such, communication between bears is limited to territorial and mating displays, relying on body language of charging and aggressive stances to ward off unwanted visitors, or a series of vocalizations ranging from barking to call attention to a threat, humming and huffing, used between mother and cub, moaning and growling for mild to strong warnings, and roaring for outright intimidation, with huffing also used during courtship. As unlike many other caniforms, bears are polygynous as well as polyandrous, with bears of both genders mating with several individuals each season, each requiring a brief courtship, only the brown bear being serially monogamous, alternating a single new partner each year. Mating season typically occurs once a year for a limited time as the female goes into estrus, usually in the spring or early summer, lasting between a few days as with the panda, or several months for American black bears. during which time the female constantly emits powerful pheromones to be detected by nearby males. The male then approaches the female, initiating a cautious greeting and huffing to signal his intentions to mate. If other males are nearby, violent conflicts may arise, males mauling and clashing into each other, though only to assert dominance and not to seriously injure. If the female accepts the male's advances, she reciprocates the huffing and the mating begins. Once conception occurs, the female uses a process of delayed implantation, wherein the egg does not yet attach to the uterus for several months, allowing the female time to build up her body weight in preparation for hibernation and birth-giving. If the female does not gain enough weight, the fertilized egg is instead absorbed back into her body, and she is forced to wait until next year to try to conceive again. Pregnancy for bears lasts between 2 to 5 months for brown bears, polar bears, sun bears, and pandas, but up to 8 months for sloth bears, black bears, and spectacled bears. The female giving birth alone during hibernation for northern species, in litters of 1 to 6 cubs. Most first-time mothers giving birth to a single cub, while older females can give birth to greater numbers. The cubs are born blind, toothless, and with only a thin layer of fur, as well as being very small, weighing less than 2 pounds even for the largest species. Panda cubs weighing as little as 3 to 4 ounces at birth. The cubs then breastfeed for a minimum of 6 months to 2 years, gaining weight significantly until it's ready to follow the female in search of food. The mother then continues to look after her cubs for an additional 2 years, being highly protective of her offspring, turning unusually aggressive to any perceived threat. In particular towards other bears, as males may try to kill the female's cubs to force her into another reproductive cycle. The mother teaches the cubs how to forage for food, how to hunt and how to fish, as well as self-defense and how to set up a den, her reproductive cycle being suppressed as long as the cubs remain in her care. As the cubs grow older, they also grow more independent, frequently wandering off from their mother until they finally disperse, finding their own territories elsewhere. Juvenile bears mature from 2 to 9 years depending on the species. Male maturation often linked to the size of the bear to grow into a size where they can challenge an older male for breeding rights. The average lifespan of most bears being around 20 to 25 years. Juvenile bears and cubs are often targeted by other large predators as well as being vulnerable to diseases, accidents and conflicts with other bears, while the mortality rates for adult bears is very low due to their size, as they are the apex predators with few natural enemies, along with the wolves and other carnivores. And even when some smaller forms, such as foxes, are more vulnerable and open to predation, they remain a crucial link of predators and prey, while their appearance and social structures may vary greatly, from larger wolf packs to family groups to loners, as they can be found in all manners of terrain. They are all part of the same global network of nature and wildlife, all members of an animal society. Across our world we live, in cities and villages, all part of a greater whole, but we are not alone. They come in herds, hives and swarms, prides, packs and pairs, living in nature, members of society. In every corner of the globe, anywhere warm, tropical, subtropical, or temperate, reptiles exist. One of the earliest groups of animals on land, they were the forefathers of the dinosaurs, birds and mammals, coming in all shapes and sizes, including turtles, crocodilians, snakes, lizards, tuatara, amphisbaenians, ranging from the largest, the Nile crocodile, weighing in at 1,900 pounds, to the smallest, the dwarf gecko, at less than half an inch long. While many are solitary, others come together in great numbers and smaller groups, with all manners of social structures, crocodilians being among the most easily identifiable. A wide group of closely related carnivorous archosaurs, they evolved 200 million years ago as a distant relation to the dinosaur. They can be found throughout all tropical climates, even being found in subtropical United States and China. Primarily semi-aquatic, they can be found in lakes, rivers, swamps, and even the open ocean, though most reside in lowland freshwater bodies, brackish water or hypersaline lakes. Only a few, such as the saltwater crocodile, able to swim out to sea to colonize new areas. Their body uniquely adapted to their lifestyle, with short stocky legs and a powerful tail to minimize drag, the tail providing their primary propulsion underwater. Even able to lower their heart rate to consume less oxygen, some species being able to stay underwater for up to 2 whole hours. They can be divided into 3 groups. True crocodiles, recognizable for their V-shaped snouts and visible teeth when their mouth is closed. Found throughout Africa, Southeast Asia, Northern Australia, and Mesoamerica. Alligators and caimans, distinguished by their U-shaped snout and less visible teeth, found mainly in freshwaters of the Americas and China. And the gharial and the false gharial, identifiable by their very narrow snout, sharp, needle-like teeth, and diet of primarily fish, as the shape of the crocodile's snout and their teeth is highly indicative of their diet. The broader, U-shaped snout and robust, blunt teeth being specifically adapted to crush protective shells of prey such as turtles, shellfish, and mollusks, while the V-shaped snout and sharper teeth being primarily suited for more general diet, including invertebrates, amphibians, fish, birds, mammals, and even other reptiles. Many crocodilians, widely known for their massive bite force, some being the strongest in the animal kingdom, exerting pressure of nearly 4,000 pounds for some species, strong enough to crush bone. Most crocodilians hunting by remaining submerged, only their eyes and snout being above water level to decrease their chances of detection. Striking fast and suddenly, killing it either by drowning or by violently shaking it, inducing whiplash and even breaking the neck of their prey. Twisting in the water while biting down to tear off chunks which are then swallowed whole. Though all crocodiles have also been found to be highly opportunistic, eating carrion as well, sometimes by necessity, as their chosen prey may be too thick in hide to tear apart, instead waiting for the body to decompose in the water to come apart more easily. They are cold-blooded and rely on alternating between basking in the sunlight to keep their metabolism high, and wallowing in mud to keep cool when they risk overheating. Crocodilians are highly territorial, many being typically solitary, violently defending their area from other crocodiles. Though some, such as the Nile crocodile, may occasionally collaborate to take down larger prey, employing a variety of collaborative tactics to lure prey into ambushes. Alligators also frequently sharing basking sites, coming together in small groups of a dozen individuals. As a result, crocodilian communication is often extensive, ranging from an array of crude vocalizations such as grunts, roars, and bellows among adults, to squeaks and yelps of juveniles, as well as extensive body language, including head slapping, where the crocodilian raises its head above the water, snapping their jaws shut as they splash back down, used primarily for courtship purposes. Exclusively polygynous, males mating with several females. Males often patrol large areas containing several prospective mates, with the notable exception of the American alligator, which can occasionally form monogamous pairs during mating season. Mating season typically occurring once a year during late spring for most species, initialized by elaborate courtship rituals, as with the American alligator. The males grouping together to form large bellowing choruses, submerging their bodies, emitting a deep resounding bellow, resonating through the surface of the water, sometimes leading to infighting between the males when outnumbering the females, biting and tearing at each other, sometimes until death. Once a female approaches, the male then rubs against her, circling around and swimming in a complex display. Mating then occurs in the water, the female submerging as the male rubs against her neck, mounting her, their tails aligning so their cloaca can meet. Mating itself lasts up to 15 minutes, the pair continuously submerging and surfacing, repeated until conception occurs. The male then leaves to allow the female to construct a nest, either a hole in the ground or a small mound of foliage, sand or soil. The female then lays between 10 to 50 eggs, covering it in soil for incubation. The eggs then incubate for 2 to 3 months, the temperature determining the sex of the hatchlings. Unusual for reptiles, the female exhibits great care for her young, continuously monitoring the nest, remaining within the area until hatching. Communication will occur already within the eggs as the soon-to-be hatchlings tap their shells to synchronize their hatching. The female then returns to excavate the hatchlings, taking them into her mouth to lead them into the water, the young remaining close to their mother for between a few months to up to 2 years. Occasionally employing alloparenting, where some species gather in large nursery groups, caring for each other's young. Mortality rates are significantly high among the hatchlings and even the eggs themselves. Nests often flooded if positioned too close to the water, overheated if dug too deep or left too exposed to the sunlight, or raided by predators such as monkeys, raccoons, bears, otters, and lizards. Many predators additionally waiting nearby for the hatchlings to emerge. Maturity is reached when the crocodilian has grown to a competitive size rather than a particular age, thus depending largely on the availability of food. Once reaching adulthood, the mortality rate drops sharply as most crocodilians are apex predators, having few natural enemies apart from the great cats of South America. Lifespans ranging between 35 to 75 years, crocodilians continuously grow in their entire lives, not aging in a traditional sense, typically only dying of disease or other crocodilians. Turtles are among the most recognizable reptiles in the world, known for being slow-moving, protected by their distinct shell. Found in most temperate and tropical areas throughout the world, they exist on every continent outside of Antarctica. They are the oldest living group of reptiles, having evolved over 200 million years ago, distantly related to crocodiles and dinosaurs. They are unlike any other group of reptiles in appearance, spread out over 14 families with 300 species. They range in size from the smallest, the speckled padloper tortoise at barely 3 inches in length, to the largest, the leatherback sea turtle at 6.6 feet. They can be either carnivorous or herbivorous, dictating the shape and function of their powerful jaw, which completely lack teeth, instead being a sharp bony beak that's a direct extension of their skull. They can be both semi-aquatic or terrestrial, dictating their shape and size accordingly. Though all turtles breathe air and lay their eggs on land, turtles can be divided into 3 groups. True turtles, including sea turtles and freshwater turtles, characterized by their smooth shell as well as their limbs being adapted for swimming, as they are semi-aquatic, spending their lives in the water. Tortoises, being land turtles with rough skin and irregularly shaped domed shell, to make it harder for predators to grip onto it and bite it, as they live exclusively on land. And terrapins, being small, hard-shelled, semi-aquatic turtles found in brackish water. Most turtles being freshwater turtles found in lakes and rivers, many having evolved webbed feet for paddling in the water, as well as robust claws to pull themselves onto riverbanks to bask in the sunlight, though a few have evolved fused digits, forming true flippers, such as the 7 species of sea turtles who rarely come on land, while the group of 57 species of tortoises have instead evolved short, stocky legs to support the weight of their massive shell on land, the shell having formed as an extension of their skeleton, their ribs flattened and fused to form a solid surface. The only exception being soft-shelled turtles and the leatherback sea turtle, whose shells are only partially bony, instead made up of thicker, oily, leather-like skin radiating from a single solid part at the center, their shoulders and hip girdles remaining inside their rib cage, enabling their movement without distorting the shell. For protection, turtles can withdraw their heads under the shell, contracting their necks to the side, as with an array of South American and Australian turtles, or by contracting their necks under their spine, as with all other turtles. Most turtles are active during the day, as they are cold-blooded, relying on the warmth of the sun to increase their metabolism to remain active, while in colder climates, turtles may go into hibernation over the winter, slowing down bodily activity to near halt, though they will still frequently wake up to drink water, their eyesight having full color vision enabling them to see both in muddy waters and on land. All turtles having a keenly developed sense of smell, having no-filled bumps under their chins to detect chemical signatures, such as the pheromones emitted by fertile females during the mating season. While their sense of hearing is limited, having no external eardrums, instead relying on vibrations in the air. Communication is thus limited mainly to the use of pheromones, body language, and touching rather than calls, their skin and shell being highly sensitive to touch, with turtles leading mostly solitary lives, only coming together for mating season or migration, particularly sea turtles, who can migrate huge distances in large groups known as gharials, though their social interactions remains highly limited until mating season occurs once a year for most species, typically around spring or early summer. Species found in tropical climates can mate year-round, and sea turtles only mating every 2 to 4 years. Mating consists of simple display and courtship rituals, initialized by the male having tracked a female based on her scent. Many freshwater turtles and terrapins having swimming displays, wherein the male swims around the female, touching her and fluttering around her to get her attention. Sea turtles similarly will court the female through swimming around, though most also group together, competing for the attention of a single female. Tortoises will bully the female into submission by ramming the female into position, while snapping turtles will sway their heads side to side. If the female reciprocates, she is agreeing. Mating begins with the male mounting the female, wrapping his tail underneath hers. The mating is brief and repeated, most turtles being polyandrous, the females mating with several males, storing the sperm from many males in her oviducts until she builds a nest in a rookery, females returning to the same site every year. Some species of sea turtles even forming large migratory groups of even thousands of individuals, known as arribadas. The turtle will then dig out an egg chamber, either located on a beach or riverbank as with freshwater turtles, terrapins, and sea turtles, or on hillsides as with tortoises. The turtle then lays between a single egg to several hundred, depending on the species and the size of the individual turtle. Incubation takes between 3 to 4 months, the young turtle inside being folded over, gradually straightening out until they're pressed up against the shell, breaking through. Tortoise hatchlings scattering upon birth, immediately looking for food, while freshwater turtles and sea turtles instead head straight for the nearest body of water, spending most of their first year close to shore before venturing out closer to adulthood. As the mortality rate for hatchlings is extremely high, 99% not surviving their first year, most being victims of predation, attacked by lizards, snakes, even birds and small mammals. Turtles then typically take long to mature, anywhere between 2 years as with most freshwater turtles, to up to 50 years as with the green sea turtle. Turtles are also typically long-lived, anywhere between 20 to 50 years, as they do not experience cellular deterioration or aging in a traditional sense, their internal organs continually renewing until death by disease or predation. Some, like the Aldabra giant tortoise, even having been reported to reach an age of 255 years prior to death. Snakes. They exist in every corner of the world, on every continent except Antarctica, found in all kinds of environments, from arid deserts and grasslands to jungles and forests, even in the ocean itself. With over 3,000 species spread out over more than 20 families. It is also one of the most diverse groups of reptiles, having evolved over 100 million years ago from lizards. They range in size from the tiny thread snake, less than 10 centimeters long, to the reticulated python at nearly 8 meters long. The skin of a snake, covered entirely by dry scales of varying size and texture, rough or smooth, that also enables easy locomotion while on land, pushing and pulling by slithering or sidewinding. As they have no visible limbs, they rely on a complex series of muscle contractions underneath their skin to move, molting periodically to replace worn-out or damaged scales. A notable exception being sea snakes, who swim by whipping the length of their body in segments side to side, living most of their lives in water, only coming on land to lay eggs. Their internal organs are arranged front to back to accommodate their slimmed-down form, with most snakes only having a single lung. All snakes are carnivorous, their prey being primarily insects and rodents, but also larger mammals and reptiles, even other snakes, or are also able to swallow their prey whole. Their lower jaw divided into 2 parts, separating in the middle, with multiple joints all along the snake's skull, able to bend it far out of shape to accommodate large prey. Feeding only sporadically, the snake will take hours, sometimes days or weeks, to digest a single large prey, resting for extended periods of time until it's ready to hunt again. They hunt primarily by their sense of smell, using a forked tongue, constantly moving to collect airborne particles, bringing them to an organ at the roof of their mouth for analysis, simultaneously smelling and tasting their surroundings. Some species, such as pythons and pit vipers, having infrared-sensitive receptors in their snout, enabling them to sense heat signatures given off by warm-blooded animals, while their eyesight and hearing vary greatly, some species being entirely blind, while others have a keen sense of vision, attracted particularly to movement, despite their eye itself being covered by a transparent scale, their hearing consisting of detecting airborne vibrations rather than any traditional sense of hearing, most easily being able to sense nearby animals, predator or prey alike. Most snakes are either venomous or constricting, injecting venom into their prey via hollow fangs that induces paralysis to enable the snake to feed without being damaged internally. While constricting snakes will coil around their prey, crushing their bones and cutting off oxygen to the brain, feeding once their prey has died from internal injuries or suffocation. Some smaller species do neither, however, instead swallowing smaller prey whole while they're still alive, relying on their powerful internal muscle, corrosive stomach acid, and suffocation to kill their prey before digesting. Cold-blooded, snakes rely on the outside temperature to remain active, warm climates enabling the snake to remain active throughout nearly the entire day, while in colder climates the snake may only be active for a few hours each day, going into hibernation over the winter months, their metabolism slowing to a near halt. Often found in deep hollows underneath tree trunks and in caves. Mostly solitary, snakes employ little in terms of communication, usually consisting of simple threat displays like hissing, or, as with cobras, fanning their rib cage to make them appear larger, or, as with the rattlesnakes, using their rattle to emit a warning sound before striking. Instead, snakes rely mainly on body language for courtship rituals. With most species, the male snake is in constant search for a mate, mating taking place year-round for snakes throughout their life cycle, preceded by either ritualized combat when males compete for a single female, either hissing at each other or by topping, winding around each other, each trying to push the other snake down in a display of dominance, or in a simple courtship ritual where the male and female entwine in a kind of dance, rubbing against each other. Snakes being either polygynous, where a male mates with multiple females, or polyandrous, with a female mating with several males. Snakes occasionally found in large numbers during mating, coiling and winding around each other. Mating occurs through internal fertilization, the snake employing a pair of forked hemipenes that are normally inverted within its body to enter the female's cloaca, the male then leaving in search of another mate or food. Most snakes lay eggs, often either left in the open or lightly covered by foliage, abandoning the eggs from that point on. The young snakes emerging from the soft-shelled eggs once they've consumed the yolk, by pushing against the shell with a temporary egg tooth, while pythons and the king cobra guard the eggs until hatching, pythons even warming the eggs by wrapping themselves around them, vibrating to generate heat. A few, such as the boa constrictor, being unique among reptiles in that they give live births, either with the egg held inside the female's oviduct until hatching, or by genuine placental birth, after which the female takes no part in raising her young. The young snakes then disperse immediately in search of food, the vast majority of snakes not surviving their first year, falling prey to other predators such as birds and other snakes. The age in which a snake reaches maturity varies greatly between species and is generally linked to size rather than age, with particularly males having to reach a superior size to be able to effectively compete for a female. The lifespan likewise varies greatly from a few years for smaller snakes up to 40 or 50 years for larger species. Snakes, along with turtles and crocodilians, both as predators and prey, form an essential links in their ecology, from large groups to smaller ones, to loners and pairs. They can be found in all manners of environments, each of them being an essential component to the circle of life surrounding them, all members of an animal society.